The Center for Educational Media and the College of Education at Middle Tennessee State University are proud to offer professional development to K-12 educators in Tennessee through our online video library. The following video is presented by the Center for Educational Media in partnership with Professional Educators of Tennessee's Leader U Conference. For more professional development videos, check out our website at cem.mtsu.edu.
I'm Mike Shepard. I'm General Counsel and Associate Director of Professional Educators of Tennessee, and glad that you chose to attend this session. It looks very interesting. Mr. Bill Parker is going to be teaching financial literacy, which is an interesting topic. Bill serves as the Director of the Tennessee Financial Literacy Commission, a 501c3 nonprofit organization administratively attached to the Tennessee Department of Treasury, which I did not know that. I'm learning more about you as I'm reading. Under Bill's leadership, the commission provides educators with critical resources and training needed to incorporate financial literacy in the classroom. Additionally, the bill has, you know what they did here? Just so we can have the bill. I'm sure you're not, known as the bill. Additionally, the bill has helped the commission expand its scope of services to include financial education for adult Tennesseans. In conjunction with Treasurer Lillard and the TNFLC Board of Directors, Bill works hard to deliver comprehensive and meaningful financial learning opportunities for the whole family at no cost to the user. So I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Parker.
Thanks.
Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for that
contributing to our program.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks. Happy to be here. And before we get started with the financial literacy presentation, as we are administratively attached to the Treasury Department, my commission is chaired by Treasurer Lillard. We also are over, I say we, the Treasury Department is also over the state's retirement system. And for that reason, my boss and senior director from the Tennessee Treasury Department is here to share some information about the Treasury itself.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for coming to our session. I know we got a light crowd, but I promise you Bill's got some great information to share. As he mentioned, we're in the Tennessee Treasury Department. So for those of you who are not familiar with us, the biggest thing that we do in the Department of Treasury is manage the state retirement system. So the Defined Benefit Plan, TCRS, Tennessee Consolidated Retirement System, as well as the 401k plan are all administered through the Treasury Department. So over $50 billion in combined assets through our various programs, including TCRS, and then we have over 280 employees with over 75 with professional designations. So chartered financial analysts, certified public accountants. We have a lot of smart people in our department who make sure that your money for retirement is being managed wisely. Go to the next slide, Bill. And as Bill mentioned, I'm our Senior Director of Financial Empowerment. So our division was actually created in 2015 through a reorganization of existing programs within the Treasury Department. The Treasurer's main focus with that was to create a way in which we are supporting Tennesseans through the financial milestones that you encounter throughout your life. One of those important financial milestones is retirement. Another one is sending a kid to college. And then, at the very early stages, it's just getting that basic financial concepts so that you can be successful in your financial future. Under financial empowerment, we have 4 key programs that we'd like to share about. Retire Ready Tennessee is what we brand our Tennessee Consolidated Retirement System, as well as the 401k plan under. Tennessee College Savings 529 program is a college savings plan administered out of the Treasury Department that any Tennessean can participate in to save for future college costs. Able Tennessee, very similar to the college savings plan, but designed for an audience of individuals with disabilities to save for special needs related to their disability. And then lastly, the Tennessee Financial Literacy Commission, which Bill oversees. We've left some information on the table for you guys before we get started, talking a little bit about our educational efforts for retirement. Whether you're early career, mid-career, or nearing retirement, it's really important to start planning for retirement, understanding what your financial picture looks like, what action you can take now to make sure that when you get to retirement, you're really happy with that monthly benefit. So we have over 16 representatives across the state for our retirement system that sit down and meet with individuals on a regular basis. You can call our 800 number to schedule an appointment, and we can set up an appointment for you to talk directly with a registered investment advisor. So it's one of the great benefits that we offer in the Treasury Department, and I hope you guys will take advantage of it. If you have any questions today specifically related to retirement, come see me. We also have Richard Sims here, one of our retirement counselors. He's in the main building at a table, so go by and visit with him, and he can give you some more information as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Now, I'm glad you guys are here. And for showing up today, by the way, this is going to be an experiential learning process for you all and for us as we ask for information and dialogue from you. But just for showing up, you guys got paid. What did we decide their paycheck was today? $60. $60. And through this process, there's opportunities for you guys to get bonuses. And if you act out, we may fine you as well. So just so you know, you guys are participating in this experience. I'm going to share with you some of our other program offerings that we have available, including the one that we're going to be learning today. But just think about how this may be applied in your world, right? Whether it's something that you can use in your everyday profession, or if it's something that you can take back to your district and share with a different group of people who may see the benefit in using these programs, right? So I am the director of the Tennessee Financial Literacy Commission. We were founded in 2010 through the Financial Literacy Program Act by an act of the state legislature. And the purpose was to promote and improve financial literacy across the state. And around that same time, Tennessee was one of the few states that had the great distinction of requiring that personal finance class in high school. So every student that completes high school has to have passed the personal finance class or some equivalent, which is fantastic, right? This is important life skills that they need to take with them for the rest of their lives, and everybody needs to know this information. But in that same vein, if that's the first time they're getting any formal financial education, chances are they've already learned some information regarding money management. Whether it's right or wrong, they've been watching other people act, right? And so the way we got started is in 2012, we started training teachers across the state to implement financial literacy in their existing curriculum, right, in their existing lesson plans using the Financial Fitness for Life curriculum. And since then, we've trained over 4,000 teachers. We also, in responding to some feedback from teachers, they don't always have time to add this extra curriculum into their lesson plans, right? And so we've expanded our services to offer an online web-based interactive program called Vault. And that's particularly for students in grade 4 through 6, but it's perfect for the end of the year or any of those times where maybe there's a substitute and you don't want to lose productivity, and you also want to be able to track the students' progress to make sure that they are still learning and being productive. That's a great program that we offer to K through 8 schools around the state. And this program we're going to be learning about today is a My Classroom Economy program. Again, listening to teacher feedback. How can we get financial literacy in front of the students as early as possible without disrupting the teacher's everyday experience, teaching towards the standards and the testing and all those other requirements that you guys are inundated with? And so we'll be talking more about that today. Lastly, not listed on here, but just as important, is our adult financial literacy platform. And presentations like this, and we have our teacher trainings that we plan around the state. As you guys can see that on the flyer in front of you, we have some more planned for the fall. Teachers started, they appreciate this information and they know it's important to get it in front of the students, but they also began requesting information for their own personal lives. Practical financial information that they can use to help prepare either for retirement or other financial milestones in their life. And so we launched the Financial Empowerment Resource Library, which there's some information on the flyer in front of you about that and all of our other programs. But essentially that is a web-based program where anybody can log on and work through 2 to 7 minute long videos on everything from building a budget up through retirement, investing, and estate planning, insurance, all sort of meant to give you the basics of each topic, but not overwhelm you with information. So to get started, I mentioned this is going to be interactive. Can I have somebody read this? And don't worry about shouting out the answer, just sort of think it to yourself. So do I have a volunteer to read this? Okay.
Okay, suppose you had $100 in a savings account and the interest rate was 2% per year. After 5 years, how much do you think you would have in the account if you left the money to grow? A, more than 102, B, exactly $102, or C, less than $102.
All right, so just get your answer and remember it. That was the easiest $5 you'll earn all day. All right, next question. May I have a volunteer?
Imagine that the interest rate on your savings account was 1% per year and inflation was 2% per year. After 1 year, how much would you be able to buy with the money in this account? A, more than today. B, exactly the same. C, less than today.
Okay, remember your answer. Thank you for doing that. All right, last question. True or false? Volunteer?
True or false? Buying a single company's stock usually provides a safer return than a stock mutual fund.
Excellent. All right, you guys remember your answers? Let's test out your knowledge. Okay, first answer was A, more than 102. Second answer was C, less than today. The last answer was false. Did anyone get all of them right? 2 out of 3? 1 out of 3? Okay? All right, most of you guys got the majority of them right. Only 30% of Americans get all 3 questions correct. Let's go back to the first question and kind of look at the impetus behind what we're doing here, right? So this says, suppose you had $100 in savings account and the interest rate was 2% per year, right? Effectively, the answer is you're going to have more than $102, right? So what is that? What is that? The concept that it's talking about? Compounding interest, right? And so only 30% of Americans got all of these answers right. So this could be one of the ones they got wrong.
Yeah, kids have trouble with that.
Kids have trouble with this, right?
Grown-ups do not.
Yeah, exactly. But imagine if they knew this. This has often been called the 8th wonder of the world, understanding how compounding interest works. Seriously. Because alternatively, if you knew how to use that for your own personal well-being, despite probably the majority of Americans who are caught up paying towards that compounding interest on debt, right? So just knowing how that compounding interest can work for you and against you could really help a lot of people, particularly in Tennessee. All right, so what is this one trying to tell us? It's talking about savings and inflation. What is this referring to?
Is how much your average everyday things cost.
I missed your answer before, so yeah.
Well, like inflation, and I think because we haven't had a whole lot of inflation, not you guys are way younger than me, but during a certain period of, I remember inflation like in the 70s just going skyrocketing.
Sure.
And so that was something that you heard in the news all the time, and we haven't really had that. So I don't think a lot of younger people in particular know really what it is, but it's like how, say, the loaf of bread, you pay $1 for here, and then with inflation being very high, you'll pay $1.50.
Right.
So your money doesn't go as far.
Yeah, so we refer to that as purchasing power, right? And so if in Think back to when you first started driving and the cost of gasoline or the cost of a movie theater ticket, right? It's a helpful exercise to go back and think about the rise in prices over time. Now imagine if you just had your money sitting in a savings account and the cost of goods are going up over time, you're effectively losing purchasing power. You can buy less today than you could have early on. Now, why do people need to know this? Planning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, well, we talked about retirement.
Budgeting.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Right? People need to know that if they just leave money sitting in a savings account, they could be losing purchasing power over time. And costs are going to go up. Yes, sir.
Example, the kid worked, he was a student in public school, had a savings, a passbook savings account. He goes off to college, goes in the military, forgets about the passbook savings account. Years later, he finds the passbook, and then he calls the bank and wants to know how much, it's increased over the years. And the response from the bank is, it became an inactive account, and therefore you were charged a fee until it became zero.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so there's a lot more sometimes to money management than just what appears on the surface, right? That's a great example. Thank you. All right, last question. True or false? Buying a single company stock usually provides a safer return than a stock mutual fund. What is this telling us?
It's, oh God, what's the phrase? You want to
False.
Yeah, the answer is false. But what's it telling us?
diversify your.
Yes, you guys all sort of helped shape this answer together. That's right. There might be two there. Oh, there is. Your lucky day. All right, everybody gets a bonus for chiming in on that one. So yeah, diversification. If you put all your eggs in one basket and somebody kicks the basket, you lose everything, right?
But then there were the years that an individual had funds invested in Tennessee municipal bonds, which were bringing him an annual return. Those bonds paid off early. That money was sitting there, and the individual was convinced he should put it in a mutual fund because a mutual fund was a diverse portfolio of accounts, and some would go up, some would go down, some would remain constant, but overall, he would increase his earnings. But during a period of time, he went from 250,000 down to 3,000.
Yeah.
And lost 147 or 247.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. So this is talking about the risk versus reward. So there's always the risk that it could go down, right? But historically, depending on what mutual fund is invested in, if it's in the top 500 companies, it's going to go up and down like this, but it's going to go in an upward fashion over time. So if you withdraw your money right before...
But the individual didn't know what they had invested. Right. So he lost.
Yep, so just being generally aware of how all of these things work, imagine the impact that this could have on somebody over time, right? Yeah. Thank you all. Right, so at this point in time, so let me just ask you this. How do people learn the answers to those three questions, those important life skills that only 30% of Americans get them all right? How do people learn that information?
I actually surprised. I have a business degree, so I obviously learned a lot of it in school. But what the real life application for me was when my father passed away, and then I had to take his investments that I inherited, and I didn't even understand half of what it, because there's the government's got weird rules too about inherited, non-qualified, qualified, and this, that, and the other, and I got a really good financial advisor who actually sat down and goes, this is because it was like Greek to me, even with a business degree. And a lot of it has to do with the legal side of it, like what is taxed, what is not taxed, and so sometimes when you're put into a situation, you have to find someone to help you and teach you, or when you buy your first house or something like that.
So So life stages or incidents happen that make you need to learn these things. How are other people learning this information? Let's talk about students. How do the students learn this information? Through their home, right? And research actually says that the number one place that students learn this information is by watching their parents, observing their parents' behavior. Now, the jury's out as to whether that's a good or a bad thing, but the research says that's the number one way that they learn. Where else are they learning this information?
When they start paying off their student loans.
When they start paying off their student loans, yeah.
Actually, I think a lot of times with my 8th graders, we had this conversation, and this is one reason I'm prompted to take this class, is they didn't realize that when you got a job, because they're 14, almost ready to go get a job, that you have taxes taken out.
Right.
And I mean, that made their heads explode. They're like, what do you mean I'm not going to get $10 an hour? I said, well, you're going to be paid $10 an hour, but what you get in your paycheck isn't. And they were just shocked, shocked by that. So I think a lot of times when you get your first paycheck, you have that rude awakening that, wow.
And that's kind of what we're hoping to do, is help them learn the basics of this information so that when they're in a position to earn a paycheck and spend money, that they have a firm grasp on what they're doing and what to expect, right? So the research says that also they learn by observing their peers and associating with their peers, right? Could be the element of keeping up with the Joneses or something like that. And lastly, through the media, right? We hope that they're all maybe listening to Dave Ramsey or me talk or somebody like that. But chances are they're watching corporate commercials trying to sell them stuff on TV, right? And so those are the main ways that students are learning. So we want to find opportunities to get this information formally in front of the students so that they are building this foundation of understanding so that when they get to that high school class, they are ready to hit the ground running, right? But as of right now, only 17 states require a personal finance class. And that's only in high school, right? Which we have already established that it's great, but it could be a little bit late. It's one of those instances where obviously some information is better than none, but what can we do to help them along the way, right? In America, 44% of individuals could not come up with a $400 in savings. Now, just to put that in perspective, that's basically one, car repair away from some financial catastrophe, right? We talked about student debt a minute ago. 37,172. Now, imagine, again, a little perspective. Student debt is a useful tool. It helps a lot of people get to college that may not have had the opportunity. But imagine graduating with $37,000 in debt and somebody who graduates with $0 in debt. And if you're making that $300 to $400 payment towards savings and investing from day one, rather than making it towards your student loan vendor, right? How far ahead you'll be over the course of time, right? And it's so crucial that students need to understand what they're borrowing and all the details about their loans before they do it, because many of them are a little bit rosy-eyed thinking that they're going to get their dream job and that's not going to be an issue, but society is telling us otherwise. Lastly here, 42% of Americans have less than $10,000 saved for retirement. You see a lot of what we're trying to accomplish here, particularly through the Treasurer creating the Division of Financial Empowerment, is to help Tennesseans understand that they need to know this information, right? And we want to help them figure this out from an unbiased, credible resource, right? Which is why I failed to mention earlier when I was talking about the Financial Literacy Commission, all of this stuff is free, right? We provide all of these programs, resources, materials, and trainings, including lunch on most instances, at no cost to the teacher or the schools or the school districts. We genuinely want this information in the hands of students so that these numbers change over time for Tennessee. This is a video that we had created to kind of show why we're here and what we do.
How's it going?
Good, good, good. I'm doing pretty good.
I'm just going to give you a little pop quiz. There it is.
What is a loan?
What is a credit card?
Do you have to pay a loan or a credit card back?
My mom says if someone loans something to you, you have to loan them something back. I don't exactly know what a loan is, but I think it's where you owe someone money. Credit cards, I feel like that's a loan or a check, and that's a $20 bill.
When you have a check, you can turn it into the bank and it'll like go into your bank. I don't like.
Where do you think money comes from?
It comes from the president. I don't know where money comes from.
So what do you guys think about the video?
You could put 14-year-olds there, they say the same thing.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that with older students as well.
Yeah.
That's great. But it just kind of, oh, it's going to keep playing, yeah.
It is truly a changing dynamic world.
Oh, it's the treasurer speaking in the background. Yeah. You know, the thing about money management is that it's ever evolving. The financial world is getting increasingly more complex, right? And so that just shows the importance of us helping students figure out the fundamentals right now so that they can take on some of these changing times, right? Eventually, you know, these students didn't really know what a credit card or cash or a loan or check was. Eventually, there's probably going to be very little cash usage, right? They're just going to be using plastic. So sort of the need to learn this information. We want to close the gap on financial illiteracy. So PwC did some research and shows us that teachers don't always feel comfortable teaching financial education, right? And few K through 12 teachers incorporated financial education into their classroom, likely because of that. Also, as you guys might be able to share, right, there are some barriers that exist that prevent teachers sometimes from incorporating this information into their classroom. One of those is lack of appropriate curriculum. One is qualifications or training. One is materials. What do you guys think the last one is?
Time.
The most precious resource, right? Time. A+.
Because it doesn't, if it's not like when I was a regular classroom teacher, if it's not in the scope and sequence or the standard, it doesn't happen.
If it's extra, there's no room for extra a lot of times, right? Right. And so part of what we do and why we exist is to help remove some of these barriers by providing curriculum for those who can find time to incorporate the curriculum, to help put on training, to help teachers feel empowered and qualified to teach this information. We provide materials in both curriculum and otherwise, as you can see lined up over there, to help teachers in the classroom. And we also want to respect a teacher's time, which is why this My Classroom Economy program is so unique, is because, as I'll tell you in a minute, it's designed to overlay a classroom rather than impose on a teacher's time in the classroom, right? So, quick discussion. Are financial or economic literacy concepts taught in any of your classrooms, in any of your districts?
Mm-hmm. We have a related arts class that a friend of mine teaches. It's economics for middle schooler kids. And she gets something, I think, from, I want to say Ultra Credit Union has got a software program that she uses a lot. I'm going to actually take a lot of this back for her. And and it's a 9-week, the kids rotate 9 weeks. I don't think they get it every year, but during their 3 years there, they will get it at least one 9-week session.
Great. Yeah, I'm curious to learn more about that program. Anyone else in your districts have some level of financial literacy intertwined in your lesson plans? Or teachers who are just sort of going out of their way to add this important life skill? Well, hopefully after today we can change that, right? All right, next question. Do you feel students are appropriately equipped with financial knowledge as they leave high school and enter the real world? No? And what are your thoughts on that?
Well, my son just graduated from high school and started college, and he's like clueless.
Yeah.
Even though he went through the training or the class in his high school, and he still, you know, he wants a credit card, but you know, we had talked about the credit card, and his bank, before they gave him, set him down and said, this is how this is. So he had training from his bank, but it's, you know, and the job, he got a job, and so, you know, what do you mean taxes are taken out?
Yeah.
So, no, they're not.
Yep.
They need more in depth. I mean, it was good that they had this training in his high school, but it was just one semester, and it was over.
Yep. Thank you for sharing. Any other thoughts on that? Are students prepared and equipped for the real world when they graduate high school? Because if you think about it, particularly if they're entering college, they have the ability a lot of times to make some pretty impactful decisions regarding borrowing or how much they're spending on college that could be with them for the rest of their lives, right? So this is important stuff.
I know, like my 8th graders going to high school, they don't understand. I mean, some of them are starting to think college or trade school, but a lot of them don't get the difference between like a loan and a scholarship.
Right.
You know, when you pay back, when you don't. Grants, they're not even. So I'm not sure where they teach this in high school, but if they teach it like freshman, sophomore, they probably need to revisit it again once they're old enough to get a job, because your whole world shifts.
Yep.
Your perspective shifts when you get that paycheck.
Right.
And then as they start looking into going into, you know, college or somewhere, in terms of just the money to be able to do that. I mean, you know, they were saying even like trade schools are not cheap.
Yep. Right. Thank you. Last question here. What type of behavioral management tools are you currently using or is being used in your districts?
Like an economy tool?
Could be an economy tool, or it could be, you know, for example, Classroom Dojo is one that's out there that's popular.
Well, we have in our building, we have school-wide positive behavior support, SWPBS, where the kids earn Mustang money for being responsible, respectful, and engaged.
Yep.
And then we have a store where they can spend the money, the Mustang bucks, at the store and buy things that we get donated, or we actually do fundraising and stock it. So we've used that, and that works with about 80% of our kids, you know, are basically good kids. And then, but that's something that we started, I want to say 6-7 years ago.
Okay.
And we worked with Vanderbilt in establishing the whole program where we track and monitor, but it's like a classroom economy thing. And the teachers usually have, like, the kids can buy pencils, Jolly Ranchers, stuff.
You're going to see a lot of similarities between this program and the PBIS. Do you guys use that as well? Cougar Cash. So I think you guys are going to see some similarities, but also some advantages of this program in terms of financial responsibility, as well as learning some of those important underlying concepts, right? Yes, I forgot, I said this was an experiential opportunity, but I was supposed to collect insurance for those of you who wanted to buy insurance up front, right? Because you never know what could happen in a setting like this. So, insurance is going to cost you $10. There could be a catastrophe. We're not sure how much it's going to cost you if it does happen, but who wants to purchase insurance? It's going to cost $10.
There we go.
Okay, you like insurance? All right. So everybody's purchasing insurance. I think I sufficiently scared everyone. Yeah, right? Okay, all right. So
We're 20, maybe not.
good deal. All right, so why is experiential education impactful? Right? It says 89% of teachers strongly agree students should take a financial literacy course or pass a test before graduation, and 20% of teachers feel qualified to teach about personal finance. Programs that are experiential rather than lesson-based can lower the barrier for teaching finance and create environments where all teachers and students thrive. This program is not going to put a lot of demand on the teacher to really figure out, you don't have to be a financial professional in order to operate this program. You're just facilitating learning in the students, right? Oh, good thing you guys paid for insurance. Vandals broke into the classroom late last night and wrote all over your desks. So let's see what the damage is on this. So here's our simulator. Let's see, property simulator. All right, let's hit it, generate. All right, good thing. It would have cost you, I would have said $10 probably instead of $100. May have bankrupted you guys in here. Yeah, so, all right, so you guys all bought insurance, so you're safe. But if you hadn't bought insurance, there would have been a penalty there for you guys to pay to fix your desks. This goes to show how this program adds these little nuance and it kind of builds upon itself. For example, that could be a middle school concept that you could be learning about insurance. Whereas elementary school, you may kind of leave that out and stick with the basics. So, we've kind of been talking about it in generalities. Now let's get into the actual program. Essentially, it's a kid-sized program that is powered by the need to pay bills, right? In a nutshell, students are earning and spending their money. For example, every student will have a job. I'm just going to pass these out. You said here. So these are guides for certain grade levels. Which grade did you say you taught?
K through 4.
I'll give you a couple of these. And this is going to kind of walk you through the program itself. But what we have here that's a little bit different than the PBIS, that could be another layer of PBIS, is now we're assigning students jobs. So now they're not just earning money by being good, they're earning money by working, right? And so we'll get into some of those jobs in a second, but their income is also, it's tied to those jobs, but now they're expected to pay rent on their desk or their spot on the floor or some other item that you recommend that they pay rent for. So now they're earning money and they're expected to learn financial responsibility by paying their rent on time, right? And some of these other items, and by the way, this program, as you can see, similar to PBIS, it's a classroom management system. It's behavioral management that happens to bring those underlying financial literacy principles to light, right? What we have historically is money management, and money itself is a little bit taboo, where sometimes in the PBIS, maybe they're earning money by doing good, but their notion is to spend it right away. Now they're earning that money. As you can look through and see some of those jobs there, and we'll talk about those in a second, but they're earning and they're learning about all these important economic principles. What an economy is, about goods and service, delayed gratification, right? How important is that for students to learn? Opportunity cost, right? All these really important life skills that they may not ever hear of until high school, or unless, life hits them and they have to figure it out. And it's designed to overlay the classroom process. So it takes a little time for the teachers to get set up, maybe a few hours, to figure out how they want this program to look, to figure out which jobs and which bonuses or fine structure that they want to establish. And it's all spelled out for you already, right? It's a matter of looking over the guide, figuring out how you want your classroom structured. And it's called My Classroom Economy for a reason, right? And that is because it's customizable. You can customize this to whichever audience that you are using it with for impact. So it focuses on developing financial responsibility in children, seeks to fundamentally change their behaviors and attitudes towards money and personal finance. And again, a lot of those systems that you guys mentioned before have these things kind of underlying under the surface. This brings them to light, to the point where you can have students apply for a job, identify which skills qualify them to do this certain job, and apply for that job, right? It's a great way to engage the families and the parents and communities for fundraising for giveaways. It's tailored to the learning ability of the students. As they grow, so does the content of the program. I have guides for K1 where you may not want to be finding these students. Otherwise, you may have a crying mess of students, right, by taking money away. But then you might have other jobs for these students, and maybe as they grow through the grades, you add more responsibility or using jobs that the teacher may typically do, now pass that responsibility on to the students. The overall objective is to instill basic habits related to financial responsibility and teach the value of delayed gratification. What we have here is, I think we can go to the next slide. We have this experiential learning process, right? You mentioned that your son took a personal finance class. That is mostly knowledge-based, right? We know human behavior. There's oftentimes a gap between knowledge and behavior, right? What we're trying to do through experience, through a monitored classroom environment customized to the students, is to provide these experiential learning opportunities that they understand financial responsibility. If I'm not doing my job right, I may not get paid full amount this month. Or if I'm not acting properly, I may get fined, right? And if I want to buy the most expensive fidget spinner that the teacher has, I need to save up my money and really act nicely over time. But it creates these habits of delayed gratification that, guess what? As you grow up, you are instilling these habits at a young age. So that's already there, right? Right, and I'll point you back to that program outline. And I should also say, and we'll show the website link at the end of this, all of this information from grades K through 12 is posted on myclassroomeconomy.com. May actually be .org, I'm not sure, but we'll show it later on. But it spells all of this information out. It has all the information necessary for you to sit and think about how you want your classroom to look. And on top of this, I always like to share with educators in particular is that this program has been proven to work. There was a research study done by the Center for Financial Security to pilot this program down in Palm Beach, Florida, which has a very diverse population in both economic diversity and racial diversity. So they did the study down there and showed that on just about all measures, including behavior, motivation, social learning opportunities for the students in terms of financial literacy and knowledge gain, improvements in all of the above. And most importantly, teachers loved it, right? Teachers loved it. And so did parents. Students are learning all these important life skills in the classroom, right? And this also has the ability to bring out that, provide this level of extrinsic motivation for the students who may not have that natural instinct, right? Now they're working and earning this money to save up for an item. So it has this planning and preparation period. You introduce the students to the activities. Then you just operate your classroom, right? And then you have a program wrap-up to talk about how'd this go, what did you learn, that sort of thing. And as the Financial Literacy Commission, we'll provide a survey so that we can capture what's happening in the classroom, maybe some anecdotes of students who are doing so well now, or they're having conversations about topics that you would never guess a third grader would be talking about, right? Those types of things, so we can help tell the story of the impact of this program in the lives of Tennesseans. And again, I mentioned this program is geared towards from K through 12, and it kind of builds upon itself. And you can kind of read through and see, in middle school, you can introduce taxes, right? In high school, you can there's an investment simulator that narrows down the historical gains of a stock market by the year and randomizes those. And in the course of the week, you could have 7 years of the stock market using that investment simulator. And you can pick your investments based on your risk tolerance and see a random sample of how it may look over time, right? So all these really great ways to, as students progress through, to add these intricate details to help build the content of the program along with the grade of the student. One example of this, we have a teacher, actually a current board member. She's a 5th grade teacher in Elizabethton, Tennessee, out in Carter County. And we visited her classes. She was using this program. And as we walked in with the state treasurer, she said, "Class, tell Treasurer Lillard what just happened." And they were explaining that everything got more expensive because inflation went up, right? And so we have 5th graders telling the state treasurer about inflation. It's just unbelievable to think about sometimes. But what other opportunities do the students have to learn about these important things, right? Now, there are 4 main pillars of this program, and I've talked about them sort of briefly, but you have jobs. Students are working. And some of these jobs, if you look through, you may have already seen some of these jobs. One is something like the janitor. So my job as a student that is tied towards a specific income is to make sure that the floors are clean. Now, if your friend throws something on the floor, now you have a student in the classroom who's saying, "Hey, my job is to make sure the floor is clean, so you better pick that up," right? So that's an example of how the responsibility is shifted from the teacher and the students start taking ownership of the classroom, all while learning how the economy is working, right? So you have various jobs that you can either create them on your own, or you can pull from some of the ones that are listed in this guide. Do you guys have any examples of jobs that you do that you think a student would take over? Or maybe it doesn't have to be you, but a teacher in general. You can even pull one out of the guide if you want. Pencil sharpener, right? Young students would love cranking that pencil sharpener, right? And if that's their job, I'll tell you what, some of the schools I've visited who are using this program, the students are so thrilled to tell you about their job responsibilities, their income, and what they're saving up for. Very rare do you have a student who can share any of that information with you, right? But they are enthusiastic about this responsibility now being on them. And of course you have rent. This money, they're earning this money, it's tied towards paying off rent for the desk or whatever it is that you decide. Now, the rent isn't enough to cover, their income usually isn't enough to cover the rent. So what that means is students also have to rely on getting bonus money, right? As I've been sort of trying to remember to be liberal about passing out bonuses to you all for participation, so that when I ask you for your rent money, if I ask you for your rent money, you're prepared to pay that, and you have a little left for the end of the month or 9-week auction to buy some goods. The other 2 important pillars of this program is figuring out your bonuses and figuring out your fines. This is the behavioral component, right? You have them learning financial responsibility. You could just say responsibility on the first ones. Now they have behavioral responsibility, right? Now they know how to act in the classroom because they know positive behavioral enforcement, right? They're going to get a bonus for, maybe the teacher down the hall said, "Your class was, walking so perfectly in the hallway," or something like that. And that could be an opportunity for the teacher to say, "Class, you got this great compliment. Here is a bonus for acting properly," right? What other examples of opportunities for bonuses would you guys give? Picking up trash on their own, right? That's, of course, you want to reinforce that positive behavior, right?
How about attendance?
Attendance, yeah. So the primary job of a student is to be an exemplary student, right? But they also have a job, and they're also, the teacher could have other expectations of the student that they can come up with great opportunities for students to get this bonus money. And the idea is not to be tight with your bonuses. You really want to lavish the students with incentives so that they may, really enjoy that compliment from you, but they are also really looking at what they can be buying at the end of the month or the end of the 9 weeks for the auction. Then you have the fines. Tell me some example of why you would fine a student. Throwing trash on the floor. Anyone else?
Tardy to class.
tardy, yep.
I don't know that finally, but those fall digits, they didn't get to school if they're in elementary school.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm, yeah,
Now,
middle
high schools
school.
with drivers.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And that's an opportunity, yeah, so, you know, depending on your comfort level or grade, you may adapt it to your own audience, right? So middle school, yeah. Yeah, so if they're playing in the hallway, you know, hit them with a fine. Right, right. So, and in these program guides, they have a lot of examples of things that you would give a bonus to a student and things you might fine them for. And again, this isn't prescribed, right? This is, here are some options and ideas for you to help create your own mini economy in your classroom. And so there are some materials. The program is fully prepared, right? We have, one of the jobs, as you'll note in your program guides there, is a banker. And so, you know, it sounds kind of overwhelming. Am I going to have to be passing out all this money and collecting all this money and recording all this? No, you have a student, oftentimes your most responsible students, who are going to be the bankers. And each banker is going to then have a few people who are reporting their income and expenses to the banker, who logs everything. And all of these materials are online and ready for you guys to download, print, and there's actually also an online banking option if you are maybe in middle school and prepared to include the online banking as well. So you have, again, that's an opportunity for the students who, you know, are maybe the most responsible, maybe need a challenge to then be the bankers and have a little authority in the classroom. And so you have that fine ticket and a paycheck. So students are writing out paychecks and receiving paychecks. And they get this written, you know, warning, physical warning of what's going on and why they were fined. Some other, so the bank log, right? So student's name, date, deposit, increase, withdrawal, right? And so they're learning these things as early as elementary school. This is fascinating. A bank deposit withdrawal that gets recorded on this register. There's the link for online banking. Just know that it's there. I think we'll keep moving. Right? And all of this kind of culminates in an auction or school store format process, right? So students, some of them will be inherently motivated to just do well, and some of them will need this extrinsic motivation that they get once they go through one of these auction processes, right? And so here it is. They're budgeting throughout the year. They're making sure that they're spending less than they earned. They're delaying gratification so that they can afford, and they're acting, you know, positive behavior so that they can afford to spend their money on one of these great little knickknacks. And now, we got these because we think teachers like these items for their classrooms, but teachers may come up with their own little items. And we have teachers, for example, in West Tennessee, there are teachers using coupons that you guys may be familiar with, right? And these coupons have maybe sit with the teacher at lunch, or 10 more minutes on the computer, or whatever else. What are some other examples that doesn't cost anything that students would really enjoy?
We had
no homework?
We had a local restaurant remodel, and they gave us, you know, the booths. And so we had booths in the cafeteria, but you can only sit there with your friends if you use Mustang money.
Yeah. So.
And they were just donated, so.
Yeah.
And they love it, so they think they're at like a fast food restaurant, it's a cafeteria.
Right, and so, you know, some of the teachers, it's interesting. There are teachers, this program is out there. It's sitting on the website. Teachers have found it online or through word of mouth, and they're using it because of this behavioral component, because they're seeing distinct changes in their students. And what we're trying to do is formalize some of that training process to help encourage. So we know there are programs out there that have elements of this program. What we're saying is, hey, we'll help formalize some of this process, we'll help put on trainings, and we'll also help provide some of these items and help you come up with items that aren't going to be costly to you, right? We know that you guys love the behavioral component, And the students are going to thank you forever for the life skills that they're learning with this money management, economic principles that they're developing early on. And so again, some of these advanced modules that exist, the higher you get, the investment simulator, insurance we showed you, emergency funds we talk about, inflation, taxes, real estate. I haven't talked about that, but you can customize your classroom to the point where if the student can save up and pay 3 months worth of rent, they now own that desk. Or if they save up 3 months of rent, they can own their friend's desk and their friend then pays them rent, right? Can you imagine middle school? I mean, yeah, so it just shows how this program is so customizable to where if you have a class that can be motivated just for that component, you're going to see a distinct behavior change, right? So we showed you the insurance simulator. There's also the car insurance one that's available on there to show us how much damage may or may not be done to a vehicle. We're at the tail end of this presentation here, but I want to take a minute to really emphasize the potential impact of a program like this, right? It's so fantastic, again, that Tennessee offers that personal finance class in high school. But if we can help students generate these habits and attitudes around money that they can potentially be talking with their families about, we are changing the culture of Tennessee, the financial culture of Tennesseans, right? To the point where generations and generations and generations could be changed by one student figuring this stuff out and utilizing it and learning how to properly use the information that they're learning. In addition to the attitudes that are being shaped early on, and the habits that they're developing as they enter that high school course, they're now learning about compounding interest, right? And how it can be both used for your own well-being, but also how some corporations exist because people spend more than they can afford, and they get used to that, paying that interest, right? That just becomes how much of a minimum payment can I afford versus how much can I be making on my investments long term, right? So just think about the long-term change that this program can bring in both a macro level for the state and for the country, but also in the lives of your students, right? Any questions?
Not really a question, but a comment. I'm in a building that's 75% free and reduced lunch, and so our kids, because their parents don't manage money well, and they get so much free, they just assume life is free.
Right.
And then, you have to hit them upside the head with the reality. It's not like that.
Yep, fortunately.
Yeah.
And so what an opportunity this micro classroom has to engage in conversations about cost of goods and financial responsibility, right? So this is a teacher who's been using the program. She says, the kids learn the value of $1, right? That's from a state perspective, a financial literacy perspective, that's what I love to hear. But they also learn organizational skills, which we're working with the University of Tennessee Extension to put on an evaluation that captures some of these other things that teachers may be interested in learning about. It's something that they can definitely take with them outside of the classroom, which is one of the main sources of feedback that you get from students. When am I ever going to need this again, right? You probably won't get that question for this program, right? Money motivates just about everyone, right? Okay, so requesting materials, My Classroom Economy, so it is .org. And all you do is click on Classroom Materials, click on Order Materials, submit your information, submit the number of students that you're asking for, and they, at this point, will send you a box. And I have an example of the box that they sent me right here, this little brown box full of materials, right? And so, we are new in spreading this training around Tennessee. So at this point, Vanguard is happy to send those boxes to you all. Eventually, we're going to have those items in-house and help spread those around the state. But just know that to find the materials right now, you'll go to myclassroomeconomy.org, and eventually we'll direct you to our website with some of our other programs. So lastly, while we still have time, I said this is an experiential process. You guys have worked so hard you got here on time, you got paid, you participated, you earned some bonus money. Now it's time to participate in an auction. And I usually have little paddles for you to raise like a real auction, but in this instant, we'll just have you raise your hand, right? And so Ashley, do you want to manage the auction process? Okay.
The first auction item, little thumbs up sticky notes. So can I get a starting bid of $10? Anyone?
Okay.
$10. Anyone want to?
Oh, sorry.
Raise your
Yes,
bid?
sorry. It's an auction process, so somebody could outbid you.
You want to go above $10? Okay, sold for $10.
Excellent. Thumbs up.
I have to admit, my sister is a first grade teacher. She picked our list of materials,
Yes.
so hopefully these are coveted items. Next item, binder clips. Keep yourself organized. I'm going to start the bid at $20. Binder clips. I noticed we have some very feminine products, so no binder clips. Guys, we have several items to give out here. So.
We anticipated a large crowd, so we got a lot of different items.
Take the bid down to $10.
I'll do it.
$10? Anyone want to outbid her? Not a lot of competitiveness here.
Start the bidding
It's
low.
different.
Yeah.
It's different in your classroom.
Yeah.
If you have a Jolly Rancher, it's definitely different.
We have no food items.
Yeah, we have a few items.
Yeah, middle schoolers are like motivated by food really easily.
But we do have expo markers. Everyone needs these. And if you don't need them, you can give them away to a friend. $10. Anyone? Expo markers.
You should really see the difference between you all and a classroom full of teachers.
You guys
who
aren't
are-
as excited. Yeah, you need these.
There you go.
Okay. These are the most popular item we typically see among our teachers that we train.
The
Inkjoy pens.
Yes, the best ever.
$20. Oh, I got $20 in the back.
30.
30? You want to go above 30?
Got 30.
You only got 30? All right.
Yay!
You winner.
I buy these just to have, because I have like 3 open packs at home.
All right. Well, I think that demonstrates our auction process. If you did not get an auction item, feel free to claim one of these.
Pass it along if you choose. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. We certainly hope that you'll consider finding a way to get this program in front of your students, right? Again, think about that macro impact on the state and that micro impact on your student and future generations, right? Because that student may eventually be a parent one day, and we know that students observe their parents' behavior, number one, is what research is showing us, right? So thank you all. Our contact information is up on the board. Feel free to reach out to us for any reason. Thank you all.
Also visit our website.